Good afternoon. Many patients ask questions about how to strengthen the body's defenses. I will post links to my YouTube broadcasts under this video. You will find many answers there. Today I will summarize these messages in order to start with you. Procedures that strengthen the body's defenses. Why the method of strengthening the body's defenses that I proposed is used not only for the prevention of metastasis, not only to enhance the effectiveness of chemotherapy, not only to reduce the damaging effects of chemotherapy on human organs, but also on a number of concomitant diseases. Such as hypertension, angina, atherosclerosis, bronchial asthma, almost all inflammatory chronic diseases. This is due to the fact that my method allows to normalize metabolism not with the help of a vitamin, not with the help of nutrition, but with the help of breathing. This is one of my teachers, Konstantin Pavlovich Buteyko. We sat with him for a long time, talked about the treatment of patients when treatment was proposed. His method. This was somewhere in the early 80s. Here he says that breathing is the main factor in human recovery. And he gave a comparison. For example, how long can a person live without food? How long can a person live without water? And how long can a person live without breathing? Why is breathing a key factor in human recovery? Because our body, the body is accustomed to creatures, carbohydrate-containing, living on Earth, our organisms, about structural processes. The initial processes of formation of biological structures occurred in an atmosphere enriched with carbon dioxide. The percentage of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere was then the same as in a healthy person. Somewhere around 6.5–7% of carbon dioxide was in the atmosphere. And now it's hundredths of a percent. And so, in the process of evolution, multicellular organisms learn to defend themselves from a deficiency of carbon dioxide. Evolution took place over thousands of years, millions of years. The evolution of the atmosphere took place. And in parallel, the evolution of living organisms. The evolution of the atmosphere was aimed at reducing the content of carbon dioxide. The evolution of multicellular structures, and even unicellular ones, was aimed at preserving the ancient environment in which life originated. That is, it is necessary to maintain a percentage ratio of 6 to 7% CO2 at the cellular level. That is why in tissue cultures, And in human life, carbon dioxide is the most important regulator of almost all metabolism.
практически всего обмена веществ.
This is due to the fact that at the level of the respiratory chain of the so-called Krebs cycle, carbon dioxide regulates many enzymatic reactions.
Ферментативные реакции.
This means that carbon dioxide slows down the destruction of biopolymers.
Биополимеров.
And you know, we eat in order to
Чтобы питается человек для того, чтобы заместить разрушенные
free radicals and peroxides of the cell structure. And if we, with the help of carbon dioxide,
мы с помощью углекислого газа
bringing its level to that ancient environment, slow down the destruction, then, naturally, we need less food.
туда нам еды надо меньше.
I will not say anything about water today. This is also a very important regulator, along with hydrogen ions, along with pH. Today we are talking only about carbon dioxide, and about how to use breathing to treat hypertension and angina, and why all acquired diseases are treated.
Стенокардии. И почему лечатся все приобретенные заболевания?
Because the natural regulator carbon dioxide is used.
Кислый газ.
In addition, carbon dioxide is associated with the transport of oxygen to the tissues. This is the Virgo-Bohr effect. This is the so-called Virgo-Bohr effect. Dissociation of oxyhemoglobin in tissues can occur with a sufficient content of carbon dioxide.
Окись углерода. Это и вопрос
This is also the answer to patients' questions about soda. Sodium bicarbonate, which is formed in the body when flour and carbon combine with sodium, which is contained in salt.
который содержится в соли.
That is why, when I tell you about the sanogenesis reaction, there will be some alternative suggestions regarding the use of salt.
Предложение в отношении применения соли.
Sodium must be introduced. But we will talk about this later. But besides that, what is important to us today? Carbon dioxide is a powerful vasodilator.
Расширяющие средства.
Today we will not consider the question of how carbon dioxide activates macrophages and they clear vessels from atherosclerotic plaques.
Где прочищают сосуды от атеросклеротических бляшек.
Today we will only consider the vasodilating effect of carbon dioxide.
Углекислого газа.
Today we will not talk about how carbon dioxide stimulates lymphocytes,
Лимфоциты.
which inhibit the processes of metastasis, blocking stem and cancer cells. Today we will talk only about the simplest question.
О самом простом вопросе.
Cup. Treat hypertension.
Хроническую болезнь.
Why did I start presenting my method with the treatment of hypertension?
Гипертоническая болезнь.
Because it is the simplest.
Самое простое.
It is well tested. Many patients get good results online.
Получают хорошие результаты.
There is one problem. The procedure must be carried out regularly until you get a good, sustainable result. Due to the fact that the method can cleanse the human body and cause
Человека и становиться причиной.
the so-called sanogenesis, I do not recommend that you perform more than 3 procedures daily.
Я не рекомендую выполнять более 3 процедур ежедневно.
The procedures are performed for 30 minutes 3 times a day before meals.
3 раза в день до еды.
It is difficult to do it for 2 hours after eating due to the activation of metabolism.
Обмена веществ.
The formation of carbon dioxide is activated, and a patient who does not adjust the respiratory center of the brain may have certain problems.
Головного мозга.
The next point I want to draw your attention to. This method has been open for thousands of years. For tens of thousands of years. Breathing has been used to treat diseases. But try to change the work of your respiratory center, your chemoreceptors. That is why, in the East there were different schools where doctors offered their methods of eliminating breathing. In one of the treatises, in my monograph on breathing regulation, I refer to these ancient works. Here are the ancient doctors who wrote. They trained their breathing in such a way that not a single feather, fluff, which the doctor brings to the patient's nose, so that the fluff is so that the candle does not move, that is, the breathing becomes shallow, not noisy. Now imagine a seriously ill person, breathing deeply. Try to change his breathing. That's it. It's not that simple. Konstantin Pavlovich Buteyko in his time, in the 60s, based on the works of ancient Eastern medicine, based on the works of Albitsky, on the works of Marshak, based on the works of Holden and Priestley, linked the treatment method of Tibetan medicine with physiology. Unfortunately, in many cases he failed to achieve a long-term stable result. Well, the method is more morphological. It is aimed at restoring the structure, although the basis is the same. The methodology for changing metabolism is somewhat different. Proposed by Tibetan doctors and Konstantin Pavlovich Buteyko and Tash Strelnikov, Prolov Esmet. Here. Since you see that there are different ways to change breathing, different algorithms for changing breathing, therefore, we will begin our work with you with the simplest treatment of hypertension. In the next broadcast, I will already give a method for treating hypertension. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.